I'm quite a loving husband.
At a time when Engelbert Humperdinck was dominating stages across the world, walking away felt almost impossible. His fan base was massive, his presence in Las Vegas was undeniable, and his career still had momentum. But behind the applause, something else was quietly building. Frustration. Opportunities began slipping away, tensions formed behind closed doors, and the direction of his career slowly moved beyond his control. For years, the public had no idea what was happening behind the curtain. Then, long after the spotlight had dimmed, Engelbert finally revealed the real reason he stepped back, and it wasn't what most people expected. Before the fame, before the name, there was Arnold George Dorsey. Born on May 1, 1936, he grew up in a crowded household as one of 10 children. His father served in the British Army, and when Arnold was just 10 years old, the family relocated to Leicester, England. It was a major shift, one that shaped him long before the world ever knew his name. Music was always present, but it wasn't his original goal. He picked up the saxophone and dreamed of leading a big band, not standing in front of one. Singing was just something he did casually. That changed after his time serving in the British Army during the mid-1950s. Then came a moment that changed everything. At just 17, almost on impulse, he stepped up to sing at a club. What followed was a standing ovation that hit him like lightning. In that instant, everything became clear. From that moment on, there was no doubt music was his path, and the microphone was where he belonged. He began performing publicly, learning through trial and error. In 1958, a talent agent noticed him during a local contest. His voice stood out not just for its power, but for the control he had without formal training. That led to a deal with Decca Records. By 1959, he released his first single under the name Jerry Dorsey. But success didn't come quickly. The early records barely made an impact. Even follow-ups failed to gain traction. It was a slow, frustrating climb. Still, he kept going, touring, performing, and building experience the hard way. Then, in 1961, everything came crashing down. Tuberculosis left him hospitalized for 9 months, wiping out the momentum he had fought to build. Most would have quit. He didn't. By 1965, still searching for his breakthrough, he crossed paths with manager Gordon Mills. Mills had already turned Tom Jones into a global star and saw similar potential but believed a complete reset was needed. That reset started with a name. The name Engelbert Humperdinck was borrowed from a 19th-century composer. It was unusual, bold, and impossible to ignore. At first, even he struggled with it. But that was exactly the point. It made people stop, ask questions, and remember him. The transformation worked. By 1967, everything changed with the release of Release Me. At the height of Beatlemania, when it seemed like no one could challenge the Beatles, Engelbert did the unthinkable. He knocked them off the #1 spot in the UK charts. It wasn't just a win. It was a statement. Release Me became a global hit, selling tens of thousands of copies daily at its peak. It turned him into an international star almost overnight. His smooth, romantic style offered something completely different from the experimental sound dominating the charts at the time. Where others pushed boundaries, Engelbert delivered emotion, something familiar, powerful, and deeply resonant. As his fame grew, so did his audience, especially among women drawn to his voice and stage presence. Critics were quick to label him a crooner, but he never fully accepted that label. In his mind, his range and control went far beyond that. By the 1970s, his popularity had exploded into something massive. Fan clubs spread across the world, numbering in the millions. Their devotion was intense, sometimes even overwhelming. But those fans became the backbone of his success, driving record sales even when radio support was limited. Las Vegas became his home stage. Night after night, he performed under bright lights, his name glowing alongside legends. It was a defining moment in his career, a realization that he had truly made it. But behind the success, cracks were beginning to form. Despite his fame, Engelbert had very little control over his music. He didn't choose many of his own songs. Decisions were often made for him. That lack of control became a growing frustration. At the same time, his relationship with Gordon Mills began to strain. What had once been a powerful partnership started shifting. Mills was now managing multiple major artists, and Engelbert began to feel like he was no longer the priority. Opportunities slipped away, sometimes without him even knowing. One of the biggest disappointments came from film opportunities. Inspired by Elvis Presley, Engelbert wanted to branch into movies. Scripts were coming in, but he never saw them. Mills had quietly rejected them, believing touring was more profitable. From a business standpoint, it made sense. But for Engelbert, it meant missed chances, doors that were closed without his say. That loss of control became the real issue. Even later in life, he admitted that wasn't just about one missed opportunity. It was about not being allowed to shape his own path. As tensions grew, so did the emotional weight of his career. Despite everything, he kept working relentlessly. Touring, recording, performing over 200 shows a year at times. The schedule was intense, but he stayed committed to his audience. Behind the scenes, his personal life was just as complex. He had been married to his wife Patricia since 1964. Their relationship began long before fame, built on a simple connection that started in a Leicester nightclub. They built a family together and endured the early struggles of life before success. But their marriage wasn't without challenges. Engelbert's affairs became public over time, leading to legal issues and personal strain. Yet, their marriage endured, held together by a unique understanding and resilience that lasted decades. As the years passed, he reflected on those choices with honesty, often speaking about guilt, growth, and change. By the late 1980s, his legacy was secure. He received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and major industry recognition. He wasn't just a performer anymore, he was part of music history. Then came an unexpected turn. In the 1990s, a new generation discovered him through a surprising moment, a quirky song featured in a comedy film. It introduced him to younger audiences in a completely different way. He continued to evolve, even appearing in unexpected collaborations. But behind the scenes, something far more serious was unfolding. In 2017, Engelbert revealed that Patricia had been battling Alzheimer's disease for nearly a decade. It changed everything. He dedicated himself fully to her care, exploring treatments, creating a stable environment, and surrounding her with familiarity. Music remained central. He believed she could still hear him, still feel his presence. There were moments that kept that belief alive, small reactions, faint smiles. For him, they meant everything. In February 2021, Patricia passed away after a long battle with the disease. It marked the end of a lifelong chapter. In the aftermath, Engelbert returned to the stage, not just as a performer, but as a way to process the loss. Music became something deeper. The songs carried new meaning. The emotions felt more real than ever. Even now, the idea of stepping away hasn't fully settled. As long as his voice remains, and as long as there's a connection with the audience, he continues. Because for Engelbert Humperdinck, the stage was never just about fame. It was about expression, survival, and ultimately, truth. If you enjoyed this story and want more deep dives into legendary lives, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Prestige Buzz and hit the bell notification so you never miss an update.